What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the overall markets. Just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total. And the offer ends very soon at the end of March. Anyways, as far as the market's going, I just want to mention that looking at SPY, we've lost our 50 EMA. So this is not the best of signs on the 4-hour time frame. We're not holding above 600 right now, so it's not the best of signs. And this is still looking a bit more bearish. When you look at the daily chart, right, this is also selling off right here. We're looking for that 598 support. We're actually below it right now, this 20 EMA. So this is a sign that SPY might dip a little bit more and get closer to our 50 EMA on the daily, closer to the mid 590s. Now, we'll be talking more about this in just a minute, but I want to remind you guys about something very important. What happens in the markets, just as a quick reminder, we were pumping very nicely because we got good inflationary numbers from PCE data. We got good news from Apple's earnings, which helped the market push more. And there were rumors that came out that Donald Trump's tariffs were not official, this and that. The market was pumping to new all-time highs, or very close to them in the morning. And it maintained that for many, many hours, right? This went on for hours. The market was holding up. Then the news came out from the White House press secretary that the Trump tariffs are officially going to be enacted today. Today is February 1st. And then, this led to a big sell-off because the tariffs will have a big effect on the way a lot of things are affecting this economy. So with that being said, the tariffs are what led to the sell-off. At least that's the factor, the catalyst that's being used by these big institutions. That's their way of manipulating these charts. And the question is, why is that happening? I went over all of this in my previous video, so I'd recommend watching that for a lot more details about this. I went over these different charts that show how much the US is truly dependent on Canada, Mexico, and China, and what this would mean, at least for the cost of goods moving forward. Now, Donald Trump is going to be enacting 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada starting on February 1st. That also includes 10% tariffs on imports from China. That's what was just announced. Today is basically the day that they should be enacted. I think that Trump is about to sign an order to do it. And then once he does it, it's going to have a big effect on the way things are going to be moving. So I went over a lot of details. Like I said before, please watch my previous video for more details about this. But I just want to say that these are like a summary of the pros and cons of these tariffs. 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada and 10% on China. The cons included that this would be a little negative for our GDP, according to lots of research I showed you guys from yesterday. I also went over the charts, but I'm not going to go over everything in this video. Just watch my previous video for the updates. So GDP may contract by 0.4 to about 1%. Inflation may also see a slight increase for the short term. Just keep in mind that inflation is always going to be on an uptrend for the US as time goes on, because it's very healthy for the economy to maintain around the 2% inflation rate. But there's going to be periods where inflation skyrockets, it comes down, it goes up, and this could be a catalyst that causes a short-term spike in inflation because the cost of goods will increase as the US is very dependent on Mexico, Canada, and China. We get the majority of our imports from them. We depend a lot on Canada for petroleum and factors like that. And then Mexico also supplies the US with a lot of food, right? About 60% of our fruits and vegetables come from Mexico. So like I said before, it's going to affect us. So yes, inflation is going to go up for the short term, most likely with this being enacted. And then other countries may also try to increase tariffs back on the US. If they end up doing that, it's going to affect us as well. It's going to affect consumers. This may hurt businesses and cause some bankruptcies, or they may be more incentivized to just manufacture more in the US. A lot of them can't really do that because of how much they depend on China. So it's going to cause more costs for them as well. So is it worth it? Like I said before, guys, I do not have the answer. And I want to make it very clear that I'm not trying to be biased. I'm not trying to say like it's good, it's bad. Those are just the honest cons. Trump and Elon themselves have even said there's going to be some short-term disruptions because of this. But Trump and Elon argue that it's going to be worth it for the long term in their opinions. So why is Trump doing this? Because of fairness. That's the first reason. He argues that there's a big trade deficit between these countries. He believes the U.S. is not being treated fairly, and he's going to create fairness with these tariffs. It's going to be used as a negotiation tactic to get these countries to do what Trump wants them to do. That could be used to some extent. This is used for negotiation and factors like that. And then the last thing is it's going to bring more revenue for the government. I don't know how much revenue truly, because that depends on different factors. right? So the government may rack in another few hundred billion thanks to these tariffs. Could be more or less depending on what other countries do. Will the other countries start to increase tariffs back on us? And that could actually decrease the revenue. If they make a good amount of revenue, they could try to invest it back into the economy to help with GDP contracting a little bit, and also to help with the inflationary issues, to help with trying to cut taxes. That's what the argument that Trump is making. So I don't know. I'm going to make this very clear. I don't truly know if it's worth it. I don't know if this is a good move or a bad move. It's not in my place to say that. And you guys can have your own opinions about this, if it's really worth the short-term negative effects that are going to come to, our paychecks, that are going to come to everyday Americans and factors like that. But like I said before, it could be worth it. Some people believe it's worth it. Some people believe that this is something that's necessary. Other people believe the exact opposite. It's not in my place to say yes or no. I try my best to be very, very unbiased. So I hope that's as clear as possible. I just want to clarify that as much as I can. And I just want to be very, very unbiased when making videos like this. Okay. So I know there are people in the comments that were kind of confused yesterday. Some of them may have thought that I was trying to side with one person or not. That's not my intention. Just to be very, very frank, I am trying to be unbiased. So, with that being said, with this going on, okay, regardless of if you support this or not, it does not matter. At the end of the day, there's going to be short term effects of this that will cause higher inflation. It's going to be impacting everyday Americans, manufacturers, and prices, at least for the short term. Maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not, but that is something the market is now pricing in. The market realizes there may be some contraction to the US's GDP. This will be affecting automakers. It's going to be affecting the prices of food. It's going to be affecting the sales of these companies and factors just like that, right? Here's an example. If you don't believe me, look at Apple, for example. Apple dumped. Okay, it started off with a big pump. It was up 3-4%, and it just dumped when this news came in. Now it's down to 233 a share. So about Apple, we'll have to see if we can try to hold 234. If not, we could be dipping closer to this low here. The inverse hand shoulder setup still remains, but we'll see if this holds or not. It still looks a little bearish here. I think it could dip closer to like 230 before we see if buyers defend or not. That's one example. Another example is Tesla went from 420 a share, it dumped all the way down to about 402. It was up pretty big after earnings. Earnings really helped this thing pop. And then after that, just know that we got this like rejection. So we're going to be watching to see if this trend line holds. If not, this could also dip a little bit more. If 400 does not hold, I'm looking for like the 394 area or below. So for SPY, what's not good is we're barely at 598. We're actually just barely at our daily 20 EMA. So we got to see if this support right here holds. If this does not hold, this is going to be a risk of returning to the mid 590s. If it does hold, we could see a temporary bounce before we continue to dip a little bit. But keep in mind, guys, it's not the end of the world. This is just a short-term move. I also want to call out the NASDAQ 100 or even the QQQ because of the fact that this is now at 519. It's losing the 521 support at our 50 EMA. So this is going to be at risk of returning to like 518. Then we should that 515 area closer to our 200 EMA. Might dip a little bit more. So just keep that in mind. Futures, looking at ES, we're now at like 60, 65. This is dipping a little bit more. We're going to be watching to see if it could hold 60-40 as the next main support. NQ, same thing. It's barely at support at 21,500. This is our NASDAQ 100. If that fails us, I can see this dipping a little more. For a few more, look at Nvda, guys. This was trying to bounce. It was doing a very, very good job of trying to base. We were at 126 a share, and then we dumped all the way down to 119 because of this news. So it is what it is, guys. There's a little bit of short-term pain coming. Make sure you guys are prepared for all of this. But it's not the end of the world. We're going to be fine for the long term, and I wish you all the best. But this is kind of like a warning for the people out there, especially for the Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck. Please be careful. I'm not giving financial advice when I say this, but I would be careful with my spending and just be prepared for another increase in prices, at least for the shorter term, for the next 3 to 6 months. It's going to likely happen. Another thing is prices, they're inevitably going to continue to go up, and people's wages are not always going to keep up with them. So, I'm very, very open to the possibility that this could hurt a lot of people for the short term. It may be very painful, but for the long term, we will see if, our government could help to offset this, if they could help cut taxes more, if, they could really do something to help and kind of like, normalize things, like if anything like that. So with that being said, like I said before, guys, I'm trying to be very unbiased here. This could be worth it, could not be. We'll see about that. But at the end of the day, the market is pricing in some things that may affect our GDP negatively, higher inflation potentially, and things like that. That's why the market is selling off like this. So be prepared for a little bit more downside, excuse me. And then we'll see how things go from here. But I'm just going to be waiting to see when Trump officially signs the order. Once that happens, possibly a little bit later today, then we're going to be looking for a big change. And once again, don't worry, don't panic. This is not going to last forever. The market will eventually break all-time highs again. This is just a temporary move to the downside, and we'll see how things go from here. All right. So with that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. I appreciate you guys so much for your attention, and I'll be back with another updates tomorrow. Until then, I wish you all the best. Have a good rest of your day, and peace out.